Can Ukraine survive without U.S. military support?
Probably it will be very, very, very difficult. And of course...
Yo, what's happening, guys? It's your boy Uncle P with another episode of Uncle P's podcast. So, guys, quick one. The world is going to shit. Or is it going to shit? Guys, listen to me very carefully. I want every African, not just South Africa, every African. I'm going to check as many African countries as I can, as many African content creators that I can, so that everybody can pay attention to what is happening here. Because I know that as content creators, we like to put content that gets us 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 views, that brings us a lot of subscribers. Whether it's Shidima, which we've all figured out that brings us a lot of subscribers, or it's just toxic, dramatic, arguing with Nigerians, and guys, listen to me very carefully. Something big is happening in the world. Something massive is happening in the world that we all need to start paying attention to. Uncle P, what are you talking about? Uncle P, what's going on? Uncle P. You know me, I always have receipts. Let's go.
Okay, man, have I got some drama for you at the Munich Security Conference. It literally feels like we're watching a really messy, a bad breakup between America and Europe. And what makes this even crazier is that it was literally on Valentine's Day. So yesterday, we're all in this room, right? And everyone gets on stage, they make their own speeches, and the president of the EU Commission, she goes on stage and she basically says that Trump's tariffs would be an attack on Europe, and that Europe, if they did this, they would respond accordingly. And then I think she kind of said this in anticipation because she knew that JD Vance was going to get on stage next. And oh my lord, the vibe in this room was crazy. And then he actually started speaking, and the things that he said, like, bro really became the ops. He started off by saying, and this was a hugely controversial point, he said that the biggest threat to Europe right now was not Russia, was not China, but rather Europe themselves. Bro, basically...
Let me just pause there for a second. Now, for those of you who do not follow the news in totality, that's the reason why I say, guys, I do my research. There's a lot I can bring you guys. We opened up this second channel. This news was technically supposed to be on this channel, but I need you guys to watch it. I need you guys to hear it. That's why I'm putting it on this channel. But guys, let's go support this channel so that I can separate the drama from the real talk. Listen. So, Donald Trump takes presidency, and Donald Trump is busy giving everybody tariffs and is busy going wild. Donald Trump is doing all this not because he feels that there's any need. America is desperate. America is really going through the worst. America is not the country that it used to be. They are no longer the giants that they used to be. Now, there's one thing that I need everybody to pay importance. He said, all this is happening because of your own doing. Okay? All this is happening because of your own doing, he says to Europe. What does he mean by that? I'm just trying to get my video back to that section and then we'll play it. Give me a second, guys.
He said, you are your own biggest threat, and everyone is sat there. And he didn't stop there. He went one step further. He started calling out countries one by one in Europe, and he started using these examples to basically make the point that their understanding of democracy is flawed. Obviously, this didn't go down well. And then things got even crazier because then Trump announced that they were scaling back military support for Europe. And then in reaction, Zelensky was like, we need to create an army for Europe now because, you know, we can't just rely so much on America. One of the craziest parts, let me find Max to tell you this because this is the...
So what he's basically saying is this. He's saying to Europe, your problem is yourself. Why? Because Europe is losing power in Africa. They're saying the problem is not Russia or China. Guys, you gotta listen to these people. So they are understanding that BRICS is a big issue. And BRICS is giving African countries power. Even those countries African countries that have not joined BRICS are fully aware that Europeans cannot start a war in Africa without Russia and China involving themselves. Because the United Nations is going to have to involve themselves. And the United Nations claims to be for everyone. Guys, the chess game is becoming very public right now. America is basically telling Europe, we are going to be pulling out. We are no longer going to be involved with you guys because you guys have lost control over Africa. The one continent we should have never lost control over. Because now that makes Russia, China extremely powerful. Because these people are now colluding with them. And the heart and the brain of Africa is South Africa. And this is why you see South Africa is being attacked at every angle. And their citizens are being made to stay far from seeing this reality and focus on this nonsense. All this nonsense that are meaningless because they've understood that the South African public can easily be misled. So they bring you this nonsense so that you cannot see what is happening here. The truth is, the USA is in shit and it needs aid. And so are other European countries. Their fear, let me not say it, because if I say it, you're going to say, Uncle P, you don't know what you're talking about. Let's continue to listen.
Even crazier because then Trump announced that they were scaling back military support for Europe. And then in reaction, Zelensky was like, we need to create an army for Europe now because, we can't just rely so much on America. One of the craziest parts, let me find Max to tell you this.
Guys, you see now, even Europe realizes we can't rely on America anymore. They are bullies because every time they don't get their way, there's a problem. They start making all these threats and all this. So we need to create our own army. But why is Zelensky asking to create his own army? And this is where...
And if you say there is a risk that President Trump, will withdraw from NATO, for example, this is a decision of the United States. I'm simply saying that if it does, Putin will destroy Europe. Calculate the size of army in Europe. It's just that I say it for a reason. Do the calculation. Why did Hitler conquer all of Europe then? Almost. Just count, remember, his armies of millions. Calculate what Europe has. What are the largest armies? We have the largest army. The Ukrainian army is the largest in Europe. The second place after us is 4 times smaller than us.
France.
Yes. 200,000? I think the French have about 200,000. We have 980.
You see what he's trying to say, guys? Europe doesn't have the army to fight Russia alone. Russia, just that one country. And now Russia has a relationship with Africa. And then, like I keep telling you guys on this video, we have our pawns, Nigerians, who are over. They don't know their number, so they must listen to me. I'm telling them, there are over 300 million of them, which we can just send, like in the Vietnam War, you just send them and scatter them like mosquitoes. So, what this guy, the Ukrainian president, is trying to do, he's trying to make Europe realize, if you lose power of Africa, Russia becomes very powerful. And whatever it is that they were planning to do in Ukraine will happen. But then the problem is Donald Trump is doing the very same thing. Donald Trump is busy making threats there. That is going to be taking Iceland, taking people's land and all that.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something.
So, people need to realize BRICS is extremely powerful. And our alliance and our relationship with BRICS is extremely important. And this has made South Africa a very important country. That's why you see this whole thing with Afrikaners trying to leave the country and panicking and all that is happening. But you need to understand the same thing is happening in America. That's Americans going into Mexico because things are just getting too tough in America. And this is the one thing that they don't want you guys to see and they don't want you guys to pay attention to.
Did you tell, as was reported, President Trump, that Putin is only doing this and agreeing to talks because he's afraid of Trump? Did you tell him that?
Yes. I told Trump that Putin afraid of him. Yes, and he heard me. And now Putin knows.
They think he was making a mockery out of it when he thought Donald Trump was a part of him, when Donald Trump was still in his support. And now he's busy crying, even asking Africa for help. But you see, people are beginning to realize that Donald Trump is not going to budge in the nonsense that he's doing. So now they are deciding, you know what, we are going to decide with nations that have never colonized, nations that will protect us and defend us from the initial bully. Guys, remember, the initial bully in the world was always Americans. Americans have always been the bully.
I'm a bit surprised no one mentions here that the United States have also withdrawn from the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. This makes the world, for all Europeans, a more dangerous place. I'm not surprised, of course. I mean, we're speaking in the end of a country whose governments have illegally abducted people, tortured them in secret prisons throughout the Middle East, killed children, bombed weddings from Iraq to Afghanistan. A country responsible, according to its own universities, for millions of victims in the Middle East. We're speaking about a government that's actually today, currently pushing, supporting genocide, supporting the deportation of millions of Palestinians, the country blocking the Cuban people from getting the medical equipment they need and deserve, a country imposing sanctions on working class families throughout the world just because they disagree with their government, and a country currently mass deporting working class families from the United States. Now the question is not, why are the US withdrawing from human rights conventions? The question is, why is Europe not reacting? Do we think this is a good thing? Are we afraid to stand up? Or is this the true face of this union, not fighting for global human rights, but for corporate interests and profits of Musk?
The profits of Musk. There you go, guys. And that's the reality of what's happening in the world right now. The world is in panic. And their biggest panic is that the collusions and the relationship that they created that led them to be able to control Africa is falling apart. Because under no circumstance did they ever think that Russia, China, that BRICS was ever going to be a real thing. And this is the reason why you see Donald Trump was so proud and had the guts to say he's going to impose sanctions on BRICS nation. And he never thought of the consequences that were going to be before him. And now today, the consequences have before him, and guess what? There's nothing he can do about it. Because why? We are stronger than Trump thought. And America is in shit. But the truth is, South Africa is the heart of BRICS. South Africa is the heart of BRICS. I repeat again, South Africa is the heart of BRICS. And that's why they are trying to dismantle South Africa. They're trying to have South Africa fall apart. I'm your boy Uncle P, and I shall see you guys on the next one. Cheers.